So I grew up as a very naughty guy, as some of you might have seen in the documentary, of which if you haven't watched it by now, I suggest you go and watch it because it will give you a lot to learn about TMP. So I grew up as a very naughty guy. I remember this one time I was home alone. At home, my mother had this small taxi, small Kombi. It's very small, it's low-fee, like a loaf. It's very underminable. So I was undermining the car, which was very small. So my mother used to use that small Kombi to transport kids to school. It was very small. I think it was taking a maximum of about 8 people. So it's very small. So I looked at that, and at the time I was very small. I was in grade 2, grade 3, don't remember how old I was exactly, but I was really small as well. But I looked at that thing and I saw it as smaller than me. So I was busy thinking and I was busy planning for this thing. And then this one time, it just so happened that I got the freedom and I was home alone. Then I had my friend come over. We're very two naughty kids at the time. So he came over and I'm like, hey bruh, I have an idea. The guy's like, what's the idea? I'm like, let's go outside to the garage. Took the keys of that small Kombi. Here goes nothing. We went into the car and we're like, bruh, I want to drive this thing. The guy's like, what you waiting for? I'll be there. Let's take the ride. Then we got into the car. Mind you, I only thought I could drive because I was watching when my parents are driving. Every time when they're driving, I look at them changing the gears, pressing something there, and I realize this is quite easy. I can do this. So in my head, when I get into the car, I already know how the car functions. I know how to move this thing. After all, it's just a small thing. So I enter into the car. Well, we get into the car, now we're here. What do? We don't know. So like, okay, bro. So here's the thing. The way our garage is set up at home is such that you have the door, right? The door of the garage is here. This is the door of the garage. And then there is this building which extends. And then there's another opening of the garage. So basically it has almost allowance for 2 doors. But this first one does not have a door. This one has a door. And then, I hope you see this. And then the building is built like this. The door of the garage, then it's built, it extends, then it closes a little bit, then there's this opening. So the car is parked in here, in between, this small opening. Then I realized, my guy, we are not gonna be able to drive the car outside. Let's rather push it outside, right? So that we have allowance. We can have the freedom to start and make some mistakes here and there. We're like, cool idea. I managed to put it on neutral, I don't know how, but I just shifted the gears and it ended up on neutral. So that when we push it, now the car can move. So we pushed it outside of the second door, right? Then now the car is here. So we're like, all right, we're good to go. Now let's get it on the ride. Let's start driving. And the guy sits on the passenger seat. And now we are facing the door. Basically now, when you're looking at the garage from this perspective, we're in the car, there's the door. So we are facing the door, right? I hope you see the scene. And then now, we're trying to start, somehow it's not starting. I remember they do something when they start. My guy, it's easy, we'll do this, don't worry. Okay, it's like we're not getting it right. I don't know what happened. We managed to get it to kick start, right? We hit the wall of the garage. It came crumbling down. So remember the door, the first part of the building. We hit this part. It broke down. Then the car is in the middle of that opening. So now the wall is broken here. Only this small part is staying. That's holding up the building and the roof and everything else. But here, this part is broken and we are in the car, traumatized as, yeah. That's how traumatized we were. We didn't know what to do. We started shaking. Everything in us was just confused. 2 little boys now in this messy situation. Then we look at each other, bro, what do we do? Let's try and push it back leave it just where we found it. We do not know what happened. We were not here. As a matter of fact, nobody was home. We pushed the car, we left it there just how it was. Put the keys. The car is messed up. The building is messed up. Everything is a mess. Off I put the keys where they were. I locked the house. Gone with my friend. We are off to play. We didn't play. We didn't have peace of mind. My parents came back and they saw the situation. They tried to find me. They found me. What happened between my parents and I is for you to deduce. But the rest was history. That experience stayed with me for a very long time. Let me say I had a lot of trauma. And I only realized that I had a lot of trauma later, which is about almost now, when I started to understand that what was happening to me all these years was the effects of the trauma that I got from that incident. I didn't realize that that trauma was the one that was holding me back into doing certain things in life, into achieving things to my full and maximum potential. Because I would be so fearful. I settled to be a funny guy. I grew up as a funny guy. At school, I was funny all my life. But when it was time to do something really serious and make a serious contribution, I would just freeze, get stuck. I just can't speak. And I realized that I had a lot of fear. But now when I trace back, I realized that the fear was coming from that incident. Well, why am I telling you this story? What is the moral of this story? This story it's a continuation of last week's episode of time management. Do not waste time. We have just began a new year, and basically the ball is in your court. You decide, do I waste it or do I make the most? Do I put the ball behind the goals or do I just shoot it outside the field? But now that is up to you. You are the manager, you are the driver. How do you manage your time? Well, I just want to submit to you today that we have two categories of time wasters. And I'd like to call them an external time wasters and internal time wasters. External time wasters are the things I spoke about. I said, watch the books you're reading, social media, TV, music, friends. How do you spend your time? Basically everything that is outside of you, everything that influences you. External factors that affect you and cause you to waste time. But today I want to focus more on the internal time wasters, which are things like fear, anxiety, trauma, stress, self-judgment, all the likes, all the things that are holding you back, your limitations, your beliefs, things that people normally say to you that just let go, your past experiences, just let go, man, get over it. It's easy to say. You go for therapy where you realize that you have internal problems that are affecting your life, and you get to sit down with the therapist, the psychologist, and they just interview you. You share your experience. At the end of the day, they tell you, just accept it. It's okay. Let go. But there's something that I want to bring to your attention today. The element of the physical element of letting go. Because we have four components in life, as I discussed in my previous videos, where I said our lives are made up of cylinders, 4 cylinders, which is your physical, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual components that make up your life. Well, what happens most of the time that tries to help us to let go and to forget the past and to just move forward, we focus a lot on the mental element of our lives and the emotional element of our lives. And we forget that most of our experiences are experienced by our bodies. And then your body entraps this thing. And it becomes even worse when now it is stuck in your spiritual element. That's why now you have to let go. So what I want to introduce today is an element that incorporates your physical part into letting go of your past experiences, your time waster that is wasting your time in terms of emotions and mentally, intellectually. Well, we don't realize that our bodies are holding everything that we have in us. And if we do not try to go through an exercise that helps us to let go of our experience through our bodies, then it's pointless. Because when you see a situation that once traumatized you, when I pass cars and I see an accident, it would scare me. My body would lock down. I wouldn't do anything. Why? Because I hadn't let go of the situation in terms of my body. What I want to introduce to you is a technique I learned from one of my YouTube mentors, which is Elliot Hulse, and he calls this the bioenergetics, which involves your body. It's you in using your body to let go of the past experiences, to let go of everything that is holding you back, your trauma, your fear. And this is a technique I would like to say is the best technique to help you move forward in life. Leave your past experiences and just move forward. Let me get to the point. This technique will require you to have an isolated space where you are on your own, in your own space. I suggest if you don't have a place like this where you can just be free and just be able to be physical and make as much noise as possible, get a closed room where you are on your own. Or if you are in a house setup, a home setup, where it's impossible for you to get an open space like this, which I suggest you should just get a space like this. But if you can't, get a room. Then you just inform the people there in the household that, hey, don't worry about what's going to be happening right now. I'm going to go into that room. Don't worry about what's going to be happening. I'm fine. All right? You just need to warn people before you do this, because if you don't warn them, there's going to be a problem. So this is what you do. You sit down with yourself and you have an interview with yourself in that closed space of yourself and say, hey, buddy, what is the problem? What are you feeling? Right? Then if your problem is fear, say to yourself, I have a problem of fear. I'm scared. Then you ask yourself, okay, how is that fear affecting you? It's you talking to you right now. First thing, what's your problem? What are you feeling? Define the feeling, define the emotion. I'm sad, depressed, I'm traumatized, I'm fearful, right? Then you define that to yourself. Then you ask yourself, how is that affecting you? Because of the fear, I'm not able to voice out my opinion the way I would like to voice out. When I get to situations of communication, I just hold back. I do not move forward. I struggle. So I'm like, okay, I understand. So you're saying to yourself, this is you to yourself. You're saying to yourself, so if you were to conquer this fear, you're saying your life would be better. Then you say, right, all right. Where is that coming from? And this is the most important question to ask. Where is that coming from? Why am I feeling this? Then it will take you back to your past experience, which is exactly, I'm telling you something that I've done for myself. As a result, I'm the way I am today. So you tell yourself, I remember there was a time where I got into a car and I crashed. Define that. And it got me so scared. I got traumatized by that emotion, by that experience. Cool. Now I want to let go of that experience. Perhaps for you, it's been an abusive relationship. Well, the guy was beating me up. The girl was abusing me. She was telling me, it was emotionally abusing me. It was just draining. Or maybe it was a teacher. Like at school, your teacher once told you something about you which caused you to have lack of confidence. There's a lot of things that can affect the way we feel, our state. Then you go back to that experience. You say, okay, this is where it comes from. At that time, if you are very honest with yourself and you take this as serious as I'm putting it here, you realize that but when you start defining that emotion, when you go back and replay the emotion, you will start feeling, you will get emotional. Sometimes you might even cry. Or maybe it was a divorce situation, which you never really outlived. Then now you start even crying. Now, when you start crying, that's when you allow yourself to really, really cry. Then you start the process. The process, it has to do with you just now becoming physical. Do whatever it takes. Now just start shouting. Be like, yeah! Yeah! Get it out of your body. Just cry it out. And then you can just shout. And if you're on your bed, it's just that here it's impossible. But if you're on your bed, you would even lie down on your bed and start hitting your bed. Just get it out of your body. Be like, yeah! Yeah! Must get physical. If you can't stand up and just get it out of your body. Be like, yeah! 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 Then when you do this, you realize that after doing it for a very long time, you're using a lot of energy. A lot of emotions will start coming out. By this time, you might even be crying. And the people outside might feel like maybe there's something wrong with you. But because you warn them, they will understand that you are going through a therapy session. And that is my invitation. Notice that you right now watching this, you feel like, what? I will never do that. That's quite stupid. But the difference is that we come from two different perspectives. You are still held up by your self-judgment. You think, if I do this, what are people gonna say? Am I stupid? You're gonna judge yourself, right? But I did this for myself, and that's why I'm fully expressive. I'm able to interact with anybody at any level. And that has brought me back to my true senses, to my true identity. And that's what I'm bringing to you today. You can do it for 30 minutes. You can just, and then you start speaking. Things that don't make sense, right? You speak, you just make noise, right? By the time you finish this, you realize that you have just been delivered. You have just been delivered from the past experience that you still had in your body. But now there's a problem, because there's two elements to being delivered and to receiving your full sense of freedom, two different things. Most of us think we are free, but we are not free. We are just delivered. You are pushed away from your oppressive situation. You're just out. You're rescued from that situation, which is your fears and your anxiety and all the things that you are feeling. But now the danger is, it's easy for you to live in this delivered zone with your past experiences, which is now you are oppressed mentally. You will not move forward. And that's where we must get into the second element of freedom, which is now emotional intelligence. How do you manage your emotions from there on? And that is what we are going to be focusing on the next week. Because now you have just been released from your experiences, your emotions, your past life. You are out of that situation. But now you are vulnerable. You are exposed. I'm outside. What do I do? How do I live my life in freedom? And that's where now you come with emotional intelligence. So catch us next week. We'll be going deeper into the element of emotional intelligence. What makes people lash out? What makes people not be irrational? What makes people just be frustrated all the time? What makes people fail to manage their emotions? And that's what we're going to be talking about next week. But I invite you, do your bioenergetics. Let it go.
The miracle perspective is in the area. Perspective. It's finished.